Oh, where will we be in the year 2000? Playing games. Still. Yes, 2000, when all the old computers from the 80s rose up because they didn't understand the concept of a date reset. Your mum was killed by a 16K Spectrum, and it was really tragic. She was proper stabbed about her person by the little microchip tearaway, so she was. Sad times. Damn you, Millennium Bug, you took so much away from us. At least we had some really great games to keep us distracted during the Amstrad CPC uprising. Before we get there though, let's have a look there at the magical world of 2000, a time of new opportunity and the arrival of the future. Beep beep bop bop. It was the first year for Channel 4's Big Brother, where a house stuffed of odd folk were prodded by cameras in order to do stuff for you to gawp at while you wasted your way indoors instead of going out during the summer months. It's hard to think now, but it was a real cultural phenomenon for about 5 years. Real water cooler chat stuff, but it dragged on for way too long, switching to Channel 5 for its dying, shambling final innings, perhaps killed by its tired format or the ratings grab attempt for more and more outlandish yet irritating contestants. Or it might have just run its course. It's probably the last one. The Nokia 3310 was released, and it's still the best-selling mobile phone of all time. As dense and as invincible as the centre of a supermassive black hole, the 3310 enabled you to change its ringtone, its shell, and, if you so wanted, to look at the back cover of a magazine or something and see loads of adverts for things like Nike swooshes or tigers, which you could then buy from various places and then have them as your actual backdrop, displayed in all its monochrome glory. Plus, you finally had something to do while shitting that wasn't reading the back of the bleach. The fabulous snake. Unless, of course, you're one of those smart-ass people who, of course, had a Game Boy or something in the toilet. You're clever, you are. Well done, you. In sport, England were pants at Euro 2000, and Denise Lewis was Team GB's star of the Sydney Olympics at a time when that was a highly rare thing, scooping the heptathlete gold. You could use those abs as a bloody draining board, I tell thee that for nout. In music, Coldplay released their debut album, and well, I'm with Superhands on that one.
People like Coldplay and voted for the Nazis. You can't trust people, Jeremy.
Video games though, and as the genial host that I am, it's rude to keep you waiting any longer. Games news is thusly from this year. It's the birth year of the sleek-looking Black Beast, the PlayStation 2, coming out in March in Japan and in early winter everywhere else. There were unfortunately a lot of shortages with the console, and you had to sign this really weird contract in order to secure your version of one of the early released PlayStation 2s. I still don't know whether my soul now belongs to Sony. I suspect it does. There is a demon that keeps laughing at me for giving my soul away in exchange for a 20-year console. I didn't mean it. Anyway, you can stand it on its side or its belly. I did mean it. Take my soul, Mr. Demon. Whoa, look at those wonderful games. Microsoft started strutting towards their piece of the console pie too by acquiring Bungie in June. It seemed like Bill Gates rather liked the look of the still in development Halo Combat Evolved, originally intended only for the PC and the Apple Mac. That turns out alright. Bill doesn't tend to play Halo anymore. He spends all his time getting divorced and filling our brains full of 5G microchips. Oh no, he doesn't. That's just anti-vaxxers talking bollocks. As I display footage of important games of the year that didn't make my list, allow me to explain the rules as in previous entries. The games featured are here on the basis of when they were originally released, on one of the original formats they were released upon. The only exception to this rule is if the game is sufficiently different in its conversions, such as Bionic Commando or Double Dragon on the NES, or Turtles 4 on the Mega Drive compared to the Super Nintendo one, say. I might not have played some of the games playing on screen at the moment, which is why they've probably missed out on the top 10 list that I've made, and I may have played some of them a lot later than their original release. They're all crackers though, you should try them. It might be a bit of a cheat to put this here, considering the first iteration was actually a Half-Life mod made by a pair of coders in 1999. I've literally just read out the rules, for Christ's sake. 2000 though was its official release after Valve sniffed around that mod, loved it, and then took the pair of clever dicks who made it on board and made them part of their company. What longevity this title has had, it's still being played in large numbers some 21 years later. Counter-Strike is a first-person shooter that pits terrorists against counter-terrorists, which itself is an excuse for a series of multiplayer skirmishes between a lot of goofballs with frustrated swearing and an unfortunate demise being the order of the day. It's a simple game in all reality. Point a gun at a man and shoot. That is it. Multiplayer fun in its purest form, and perhaps the reason why it's still loved today. You don't need flashy weapons, zombie modes and the like. If you get it right, evolution isn't really required for a first-person shooter. Counter-Strike is a superb game to experience, and not just for the vast amount of swear words from across the breadth of Western languages. You know, words like putain, vitu, lot. Every day's an education, eh? The fourth entry in the Resident Evil franchise, but not to be confused with Resident Evil 4, which, spoilers, will be a lot higher than ninth in the 2005 video. There is an argument that the yearly instalments of Resident Evil were already getting a bit tired by this point, but the step up in hardware to the Sega's Dreamcast gives Resident Evil a huge boost in its look. The switch to real-time backdrops from the pre-rendered backgrounds of the PS1 instalments, along with the dynamic camera, are a real boon to Code Veronica's look. While the tank controls remain as divisive as ever, the storyline of the Redfields and their investigations into a zombie outbreak in the Southern Ocean is an engaging one, and the gameplay remains as terse and as compelling as ever. A real capture by Sega for their Dreamcast, but equally good on the PlayStation 2 some 18 months afterwards. If you like being molested by a decaying man in tatty clothes, please go to your local Weatherspoons. And then after that, come home and play this. It's brilliant. So here's a game that hasn't aged terribly well really, when compared to its PS2 and especially the recent PS4 and PS5 games in the series. Spider-Man games had always been a bit of a mixed bag, from the lows of Doctor Doom's Revenge and his SNES collaboration with the X-Men, to the highs of the Mega Drive and arcade games by Sega of the early 90s. Yet this first foray into the 3D world of the PlayStation was surprisingly good. Yes, web swinging is limited to the very highest of skyscrapers thanks to some technical limitation hiding storyline plot convenience about fart gas. But despite this, Tony Hawk developers Neversoft did some tremendous things with their skateboarding engine to give the wall crawler a game to be proud of for the time. It's a flawed but very playable gem packed with secrets and is a thoroughly entertaining action adventure. Worth checking out. Excelsior! While it reuses a lot of assets from Ocarina of Time, quite frankly that's not a bad game to nab elements from. Set 2 months from the events of that regular best game of all time list filler, and things are going rather pear-shaped in the land of Termina, as the world is about to get obliterated in a few days. Oi, you angry planetoid, bog off chum! It's a darker game in theme than its predecessor, and its repeating 3-day time cycle and use of the masks that physically alter Link's shape into various helpful beings take Zelda in interestingly creative directions. While I prefer Ocarina, this game has many fans and would no doubt feature amongst most others' top 3, but this time, not for me.
Well, excuse me, princess.
It's got one of those names, this game, that feels awkward to say in front of a grandmother or a vicar. But what Warren Spector's Tour de Force also has is an incredibly flexible, immersive playing style. It took the first-person shooter and hitched upon it several other genre wagons. Stealth, adventure and role-playing all mixed together in a fantastically tasty goulash of multiple missions, tasks and potential outcomes. Brilliantly realised, tremendously influential with an engaging, branching Blade Runner aping plot, Deus Ex is a game that is an essential part of anyone's historical education, particularly for those who've enjoyed the likes of Skyrim. Skyrim, Deus Ex, what absolute filth these good games have as names, honestly. What started as a Square Enix coded sequel to Super Nintendo classic Super Mario RPG eventually ended up as a charming pan-generational franchise. Ones that just so happened to feature Nintendo's mascot as a wafer. Developed by Intelligent Systems, Paper Mario combines traditional RPG elements with features and mechanics from the Mario series, with partners of Mario using their abilities and specialised skill to help you progress in the game's varied world. I think it's a really great game, a fantastic beginning to the series and well worth your time. It's excellent stuff. By the end of its life, the PlayStation 2 had shifted over 155 million consoles, which made it the best-selling console of all time. If you're looking at the launch lineup though, you'd be forgiven for wondering just how that happened. It was an uninspired clutch to say the least, with the exception being this game, the excellent SSX. EA get a lot of disrespect these days, and with good reason, but the initial SSX simply sparkle with next-generational goodness. It simply was a game that couldn't be replicated on the Saturn, the N64 or the PlayStation. And what's more, it was incredible to play too, a spectacular arcade game in your living room and the snowboarding equivalent of the next game on the list. A proper sequel, this. It took the engine and framework of the groundbreaking original and just did everything more and better. If you're making a sequel, just do that. Manuals were added to make the already intuitive controls glorious. The levels were enlarged with all sorts of obstacle options for players to grind and sail over, with the frame rate chugging along at an impressive canter. The old man on the tiny wheeled ironing board would go on to have many, many games on multiple formats, but they were rarely better, if ever, than the second effort in the series. Here's a bit of my own self-indulgence creeping through. Is SmackDown 2 better than the games below it in the list? Well, no, probably not, but no game on this list got more play than SmackDown 2 from me from the end of 2000 through most of 2001. Similar to Tony Hawk's 2, SmackDown 2 took everything in its predecessor and just built upon it. A massive roster with unlockable characters hidden within storylines in its immersive season mode were just some of the grapply treats on offer. Almost any match type of the Attitude Era could be made, and it was so easy to pick up and play. Finally, as The Rock might say, there was an incredible WWF game to play at home. So long after Superstars and WrestleFest enchanted us in the arcades a whole decade before. But despite this, SmackDown 2 isn't the best game of the year. Hell, it isn't even the best wrestling game of the year. Hell, it isn't even the best WWF game of the year. This is. No Mercy is the undoubted greatest WWF game champion of all time. Aki Corporation fine-tuned their incredible grapple engine to absolute perfection for their second WWF effort on the N64. Hundreds of moves, an incredibly deep roster, opportunities to create wrestlers, something there's still a large community for to this day, a solid upgrade to the storyline mode, and all manner of goodies locked away for you to spend your hard-grinded cash on at the SmackDown Mall. Not real cash, this was before then, this is before the bad times. But best of all is its gameplay. It's simple to pick up and play, endlessly fun and tricky to master. If you have ever had any interest in the travelling circus of pant and baby oil sporting hunks of suplexing man meat that make up the wrestling fraternity, you've already played this. Surely you have. If you haven't, do so right now. If you don't like wrestling, I still say there's plenty to enjoy here. After all, this is a list of the best games of 2000, and I am Y2J, his man-child. Yeah, that was an attempt at humour, and I regret it. Well, that's a great way to end the video, isn't it? So yeah, that is it for 2000, but join me in a couple of weeks for 2001. Is it all going to be a load of space oddities? See, I'm not even improving. Anyway, okay, thanks and bye.